The first and last voyage of the Titanic. Ben Guggenheim slipped his arms into the silk-lined sleeves of his evening jacket and turned to his cabin mirror to fasten his tie. "What say we take a turn around the deck and listen to the band?" he said to his secretary. Outside on deck, it was a beautiful, frosty, starlit night. Only a chilly breath of a breeze and a calm, smooth sea. The ship was ablaze with lights. The band played a lively little dance number from its huge repertoire. An altogether perfect evening, were it not for the screaming. All round, people were praying and running, sobbing and swearing, hugging or struggling to climb up high. Steerage passengers were still streaming up from the lower decks, and the ship groaned in agony as its back prepared to break. "Unsinkable," they had said in the advertisements. "The ship that cannot sink," the newspapers had made such a big fuss of her size and safety, her luxury and collision-proof double hull. Pride of the White Star Line, the Titanic was the last word in elegance and technology. People had flocked to buy tickets for her first voyage. The rich and glamorous, quite at home beneath the chandeliers of her immense ballroom. Poor Irish emigrants who could only afford the smallest, cheapest cabins on their trip to a new life in America. The ship was a little world in miniature, rich on top, poor on the bottom, but all heading in the same direction. And she was so big, the length of London's Shaftesbury Avenue, and just as brightly lit. The iceberg, by contrast, moved like a dirty brown slab, hidden for the most part underwater. It had broken away from the polar pack ice to float aimlessly south across the shipping lanes, and it too was Titanic. The lookout, Fred Fleet, saw it at the last moment and shouted a warning, clanged the alarm bell 3 times. The ship only seemed to graze against the great ice hulk, then sail by, a rattle of ice skittering across the decks. "That was a close shave," said Fleet to himself. But there was a 90-metre gash below the waterline, a gash which had pierced both layers of the double hull and buckled the whole structure. Icy water was already pouring in. The unsinkable Titanic had 2 hours to live. The bow and wheelhouse were already underwater, but the stern was still afloat and reasonably level. One of the large funnels disintegrated and toppled into the water amid the swimmers and rafts and lifeboats. There had not been enough lifeboats, not even for half the people aboard. A strange oversight. Perhaps on an unsinkable ship, lifeboats had not seemed important. Some boats had capsized on launching. As a result, the lifeboats, floating now within the glow of the ship's lights, were crammed with precious cargoes of silks, satins, furs and diamonds. Women and children first. That is the rule at sea. Of course, some men had been too panic-stricken to care about the etiquette of the sea. Some had tried to disguise themselves as women. Some had jumped into the water and been pulled aboard. And there were the sailors who had to get the boat away. But for the most part, true gentlemen had stayed behind. Jack Phillips, the wireless operator, for instance, tapping away at his Morse key, over and over and over and over. "Come at once, we have struck an iceberg." "It's CQD, old man. Position 4140 north, 5014 west. Come at once, we have struck." Gentlemen, like the ones in the water who had found the rafts too crowded to take another soul, and swum away with a cry of "Good luck, God bless you, gentlemen." Like the engineers still labouring to provide power so that all the lights in the ship could blaze during the evacuation, be seen by rescue ships. Raise the spirits of those caught up in the death of Titanic. True gentlemen. Like the musicians playing, even now, a jaunty little tune, while the deck beneath them tilted more and more steeply. True gentlemen. There were wives, too, who chose to stay behind with their husbands, and men like Ben and Victor, who, seeing how some must live and some must die, had thrown off their life jackets and turned away from the lifeboats. "Tell my wife I played the game out straight to the end," Ben had called to those in the boat. "No women shall be left aboard this ship because Ben Guggenheim is a coward." The band struck up. "Abide with me." The lights were flickering now in some of the portholes. It was 2 a.m, the 15th of April, and the ship was going down. The entire front half disappeared. The stern section stood on end, then, like a still photograph, hesitated for a full 5 minutes before slipping out of sight. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this new kind of story, and we hope to see you again tomorrow. Bye!